We're back with another episode of Retirement Police Most Wanted. And today, we're going to talk about a subject that seems in direct conflict with retirement. It would be, what would you do if you won the lottery? And that's a little bit how we think about gaining financial freedom in the next 100 months. Stay with us for this episode. My fellow FIers, welcome. And today I want to talk to you about, that's right, the lottery. So I don't know if any of you play the lottery. I typically do not play it unless it is a very high amount. And by high amount, I usually mean at least $100 million, if not several $100 million. I'm not a regular lottery player. I have a good friend of mine that was once asked by a professor when is actually the best time to buy a lottery ticket. My answer to when the best time to buy a lottery ticket would be when you know that you actually have the winning lottery ticket. This professor's number one answer was as soon as the next lottery ticket sales open is when you should buy the lottery ticket, because it allows you to maximize the amount of time that you have to fantasize about how you would spend your presumably multi-million-dollar winnings. And the reason that we think that this is so relevant to our conversation in terms of the retirement police most wanted and financial independence is that at fi59.5.com, we're on a 100-month journey to gain financial independence and make paid work optional. So there is a distinct possibility, if you have listened to any of the 4 previous episodes, that you know that we are workaholics. We can not exactly imagine not working in some capacity. And we're not saying that we would get paid for it, but we don't outright think that we would stop actually all of the endeavors that we're in, or even new endeavors. However, there are many people that, as I understand it, win the lottery, and one of the first things that they do is quit their jobs. Sounds like a lot of people absolutely hate their jobs. They find no enjoyment or pleasure in their work, and all they want to do is get out of their jobs. And that's a really interesting concept to me and to my spouse, because we, as I said, we like to work. We find purpose and meaning in it. There have certainly been times that we have had the type of jobs that there were not purpose and meaning in them, and those forms of employment did not last very long. But the concept of winning the lottery and the professor's answer, where the amount of time and pleasure you would get fantasizing about what you would do if you win the lottery, correlates to our retirement police most wanted efforts here out of our 100-month journey. We're very early in the stages of this, and we have time to fantasize about what that life will look like once we officially make paid work optional. We've talked about the FI number. We've talked about what it is to reach our goals. I want to just talk about a little bit some of the things that lottery winners tend to spend their major winnings on, and how that would correlate in terms of our approach. Many people, as we understand it from reading various articles about lottery winners, they go out and they buy a very expensive sports car. We typically have followed the millionaire next door approach of buying quality used vehicles. The thought of buying a very expensive brand new sports car, or I suppose it could be a very expensive collectible sports car. There's people that are certainly into that. I always think about, what if I get just like one little scratch on that car? Or what if there's fender bender of some sort? What happens in terms of the value of a vehicle if you purchase a new vehicle? Lots of people say the moment that you drive it off the lot, it loses 30% in depreciating asset value. And that's not exciting to us. Perhaps you'd have so much money that you wouldn't care about it, that you would just say, hey, I'm going to do this for a lot of pleasure. And I suspect that's what happens to a lot of lottery winners. So do I think about fantasizing about purchasing a sports car when we make paid work optional? Not really. That's not on my list of fantasies. I do like to drive a nice car. That is sort of a more recent evolution, but I'm not sure that a sports car is going to be in our future. Boats and yachts are also on the list of things that lottery winners buy. And while, at least for me, there's a time period in my life where I grew up around boats, not my parents directly, that was not their thing, but we did associate with people that had boats. They were not yacht category boats, but seems like a lot of work. Many people, the old joke, right, is there's 2 days when you're so excited about your boat: the day you buy your boat and the day you sell your boat. So I do know people that love their boats. I don't know any yacht owners. I have been in parts of the world where there are so many yachts. We were in Monaco at one point, tiniest country in the world besides Vatican City. But the number of really nice sports cars lined up, car after car after car after car, and the number of yachts in a pristine blue water in Monaco was incredible. It was worth the view, but not something that I want to do. Real estate. Many people go out and buy multi-million-dollar homes. They buy multi-million-dollar homes in multiple locations. Many people, even in the financial independence community, believe in investing in real estate. We have friends that have second homes. They just love their vacation homes. I'm at a point in my life where I really enjoy going to different places, not the same places. Again, to me, real estate may be a little bit like a boat or a yacht, where I wouldn't want to have to upkeep and maintain that, the taxes, the taking care of a property, all of that. So that doesn't seem very interesting. I'm sure someone would try and convince me in terms of the importance of protecting your assets or diversifying your assets to get into multi-million-dollar real estate. Perhaps if I really did win the lottery, that would be something that we would have to take a look at with our financial team, our attorneys, our accounting team, but it's not something that I envision. Looking ahead to our own quote-unquote retirement, in terms of real estate, at this point, I do not envision that we will acquire additional real estate assets. In fact, perhaps we would be more inclined to divest of real estate assets. Ramit Sethi, he is a big fan of renting versus owning, is certainly a controversial topic, but that may be something that we want to take on. I'm sure at a future point I will talk about going through the process of divesting materially of possessions, how that was a time-consuming process for us in terms of being involved with my own parents and how it's not something that I'm excited to put our children through, which is another reason why, again, talking about some of these other things that lottery winners tend to go out and purchase does not necessarily excite me. You may say, well, then at least they'd have these assets, but you don't know exactly which assets they're going to want, what's going to work in terms of their lifestyle, how much cash you're going to provide for them. There's still things like taxes involved. There's lots of complicating matters in terms of that. One area that lottery winners do spend on and does align with our current lifestyle and what we plan on in the future is world travel. Travel is a must for us. In fact, we are trying to be even more intentional about travel because we want to get as much travel in. And I know it sounds like I'm purely talking about volume, but we really know that there are parts of the world that will be better to visit now at the ages that we're at versus the older we get, the more difficult certain places may be to visit. I take, for example, just thinking about a lot of places with a great many stairs or have rocks that you climb on. A portion of the cliffs of Mohair where you can kind of go and then there's a pathway and it's very beautiful. It's very pretty, that spot in Ireland. There is a significant amount of stretch that technically you are not supposed to go to because the pathway is often very, very close to the edge of the cliffs. In fact, every year they tend to have somebody fall off the cliffs, which is not necessarily intentional. It's purely accidental. There is a high degree of risk, but it's very beautiful. And it's definitely an adrenaline rush. But there's only a certain point at which if I go back to the cliffs of Moher or someplace like it, then I'm going to visit there and feel comfortable doing that portion because my body is not going to be in the best condition to do that. But world travel is a high priority for us. If we won the lottery, that would be one of the things that we would invest in. It is certainly one of the things that we plan to do now, even in this less than 100-month stretch, and certainly after the next 100 months. Donating money or starting a trust. There are certainly people that wait until they win the lottery or wait until later in life when they know that they have, quote unquote, a lot of assets to start donating regularly to charities. Donating, whether it's money, whether it's our talents, our time, is something we already regularly invest in. When we say paid work optional, there is a distinct possibility that we're going to be doing lots of volunteer work. Some may say, well, why wouldn't you just do it now? Why wouldn't you just keep working and you can do the volunteer stuff on the side? We do that. But there are times where our busy jobs limit the amount of things that we can be involved in. Some people say, well, I get so much more and I can benefit the organization so much more by strictly donating my cash. In some cases, that's true. But we also feel it's an obligation. It's a way to have meaning and purpose, to pay it forward, to give back. All of the things that have been done for us, we have benefited from other people donating their time and their talent and their treasure to us throughout the years. And so that is something that we want to do. Another thing in our research that we found in terms of people that win the lottery that they have done is they have plastic surgery. This is not something that I see myself being interested in. Not now, not in the future. I have, on very limited occasions, have had to have surgeries. Those are not things that I have enjoyed. The recovery from those, it's the risk involved. Unless it is something that I really need to have surgery in terms of life-saving measures, I do not envision doing that. My take is that we are out on the plastic surgery. So that is not something that I envision for our future, these next 100 months or beyond. Gambling. Gambling also tends to be something that lottery winners get involved in. There was a point in my life where I enjoyed a good game of cards with small stakes, always small stakes. I do know people that like to go down to gamble at some of the casinos or go out to Vegas. It is really no longer my thing. I do not envision that on any sort of broad scale, but there are certainly people that, and the one thing that we have seen as a nation during COVID is a prevalence in terms of sports betting. Once sports betting became legal, people have really gotten into it. In fact, I think there is now more money placed in terms of sports betting related bets than there is in the stock market. So how the meme stocks had their day, sports betting is really having its day right now. I still think it's much better to do some dollar cost averaging in some index funds. This show is not investment advice, and I will put the disclaimer out there right now. You should talk to your financial planner or financial expert, your accountant, your lawyer, your life coach, your pastor or spiritual advisor. Go talk to all of those people in your life. This show is purely for entertainment. So no gambling for us in terms of if we win the lottery. Now, here's a interesting one. It sounds like there are people that they end up, if they win the lottery, they pay off their mortgage, their student loans, credit card debt, and that to me is a good and responsible way to use your lottery winnings if you're a lottery winner. It is certainly something, if you're on the path to financial independence, you don't need to just play the lottery, believe it or not, to do these things. There are ways, if you're planful, definitely encourage getting out of debt or not taking on debt in the first place. And that is something we've talked about a bit. It's certainly something we will talk about more in the future. The other thing that people often pay down is medical expenses. Medical expenses are one of the things that are a leader in terms of people getting into bankruptcy. We currently don't have medical expenses beyond our reach, but that is something that I have a lot of empathy and sympathy for, and certainly would be something that if we were in that situation, we would want to take care of. We understand that there are estimates that medical expenses in retirement, and typically these are based off of your traditional retirement age of 65 and beyond, where they're talking about having $300,000 worth of medical expenses. That would also include things like long-term care and whatnot. So medical expenses will be something that will be in our future. Medical expenses and navigating insurance prior to Medicare eligibility at age 65 is something that is probably the trickiest thing for us in terms of figuring out how to go on the lam and elude the retirement police, because we will not be eligible for Medicare. I can relate to the fact that medical expenses would be an important thing, and we don't want to go into debt and have a financial calamity or catastrophe that puts us in a position where we're wiped out. And then we're at a point in our lives where maybe we can work, but it's going to be really hard in your late 50s, early 60s, and beyond to get a job that pays as well as your current position, actually includes benefits, and is something with favorable hours. The other thing, speaking of medical expenses and talking about how it declares bankruptcy, we have read that lottery winners as high as 70% end up in bankruptcy within 3 to 5 years of winning the lottery. This seems like a preposterous thing to happen. However, because the sum of money is so great, there appears to be a lot of psychological guilt about not having actually earned the money. Many people are ignorant or find it difficult to actually budget money, whether they're a lottery winner or not, and take on credit card debt and all sorts of other things. And if you think you have an endless spigot of money, I don't know how many lottery winners actually use a 4% withdrawal rate. I do know that most lottery winners take the lump sum option rather than take the long-term annuity payment. That's interesting, because if you didn't trust yourself, you think that you would take the annuity payment. When I was much younger and did play the lottery with greater frequency than waiting until it got to $100 million, I would check the option to take the annuity payment, even though that may be stupid because you could invest the money on the front end, because I knew that I had an addictive personality. I didn't trust myself and thought, well, at least if you knew that you had the annuity, you'd kind of be jammed up and you'd know that you had a steady income coming in. But the bankruptcy rate is very high for lottery winners. The other thing is they tend to, and this is a thing that lottery winners spend their money on, they share their money with family, with friends. Certainly not uncommon. If anybody has ever seen the 30 for 30, I believe it's the ESPN 30 for 30 documentary on professional athletes. I believe it's called Broke. Many professional athletes go broke within 10 years of their playing days. One, they didn't really invest their money in things like financial instruments in terms of the stock market or true investments. They get caught up in sort of schemes, giving money to family and friends, right? you also tend to believe this is never going to end. I'm always going to have $10 million or $20 million salary or all these endorsement deals. You don't really see the spigot turning off. The professional sports leagues, as I understand it, have done a much better job of trying to educate their professional athletes on the front end and doing those investments. Thankfully, there are lottery winners, but it must not be a high enough percentage, or it must not be in perhaps the type of investments that we are thinking of, but there are people that do invest their money. Psychologically, the whole notion of working one more year, that syndrome that has been talked about by others in terms of the financial independence, the FI community, that is something we know. Admittedly, it is already built in to our 100-month scenario, full disclosure. Probably get into that a little bit more in the future. Psychologically, the decumulation of funds is something that I believe that we will struggle with. It is something we are cognizant of on the front end, and we know that we will have to work on. So those are just some of the things that we are thinking about as we fantasize about what we will end up doing with our money and our time and our efforts. The whole concept of sort of fantasizing about what that time period looks like. We certainly want to spend time traveling, spend time giving back to our communities and volunteering for things. Exercise and taking good care of ourselves will be a priority. Spending time with family and friends will be a priority. There are actually a lot of things on our list that will not cost a great deal of money that we will enjoy doing, because those are things that we already incorporate into our lifestyle, which is why we are living below our means and putting money away for our future. So we are making our own lottery fund through our constant investing. We too will live like millionaires, except the millionaires that we will be living like are the millionaires next door. And if you have not read the original book by Thomas Stanley and William Denko, I do recommend you grab a copy of that. We'll probably highlight some of that in the future as we think about how we are going to go on the lam from the retirement police and make our great escape. These are the things, these are our millionaire lottery winner style dreams that we have. So thanks for being with us on this episode of Retirement Police Most Wanted. We hope that you are trying to figure out how to break those golden handcuffs and get ready for your mugshots. Join us. Share with us your stories as well. Check out more episodes on YouTube at Retirement Police Most Wanted. Check out the website, fi59.5.com, and we'll catch you soon. Take care, FIers.